What exactly causes rage? What causes men to finally break? Until the summer of 1154, the people of Creos, a productive, idyllic town in the heart of Calradia, had been as orderly and as deferent to authority as any in the realm. But all of that changed overnight. Refusing another summer of ruthless taxes and stolen livestock, and unwilling to struggle through another winter of death and hunger, the people of Creos rose up. They slew their overlord and then successfully seized the great castle of Gauss. Within a few short days of rage, they had recovered years of stolen goods and recovered their dignity, but more importantly, they had lit the fires of revolt. As news of the uprising in Creos spread like wildfire across the Middle Country, village after village began to rise up. Arming themselves with farm tools and mustering every able-bodied man they could, these towns readied for battle. The ruthless landlords and manor lords across Calradia, intent on keeping the status quo and supported by well-armed mercenaries and imperial troops, attacked these revolts ruthlessly. The Empire forces were mostly war-hardened warriors and knights, veterans of 2 decades of bitter war. Armored horses and highly skilled cataphracts were among the retainers that the Imperials dispatched, and their skill and hardiness showed outstanding in each uprising. Still, the fires of rage started in Creos could not be contained, as generations' worth of rage was unleashed by the peasants of Calradia, as one village after another displayed an anger and determination that startled the attacking Imperial forces. Out of some 20 villages that rose up in arms, more than a dozen sustained their revolts despite Imperial attacks to destroy them. Most of these sent messengers to support Zavan and the people of Creos, and not a few sent armed men to swell the main rebellion force. So now what with our force? Nearly 900 rebels with a single castle. Well, the first thing necessary is to consolidate our power and establish the ground rules. Of course, this challenge is a side branch of our main campaign, where a bunch of high-level characters and very low-level troops are going to attempt a rebellion. But the first thing that's necessary is to establish some ground rules. First, we're going to disband all the previous clans from my campaign and give all of my money to this young gal here. Hopefully she doesn't go spend it all at once. 13.1 million. We'll gift her with that. She said, I'm glad we could make this work. Well, she's obviously not as thankful as I suspected she would have been, and we will disband her and continue on with this revolt. Other ground rules of this little campaign, this mini campaign: we are not going to allow our rebellion to hire any mercenaries. We're not going to be picking up any of the minor clans, and we're also going to be making sure that we never have tier 5 or tier 6 units in our army. And I say never, I say that loosely. We're going to disband all these clans. The never part really, and good riddance to Castor, by the way, but the never part is going to be, as often as I can, I'm going to make sure we disband tier 5 and tier 6 units, with the idea being that these peasants definitely weren't interested in fighting with elite Imperial troops in this rebellion. Suspecting them rightly of treason, there was very little trust for the Imperials. Well, given that we are surrounded by castles and cities that hate us, one of the very first things that was necessary is to take a city of our own. Now, Myzia has a very large defense force, and it's probably more than we're going to be able to tackle, but it makes sense that we would try a siege early on. Now, this is very interesting. Volios was the count that attacked us at Creos, and his kingdom evidently is offering 6,000 measly gold for ransom. Well, we're going to teach these Imperials what we do to counts and other nobles that are only worth 6,000 gold. No thanks. It's important to teach these enemies of ours, these ruthless kingdoms that were just as ruthless, if not more. That won't be the last lord that we execute in this campaign. Maybe they'll give us 6,000 for the armor he was wearing. Yeah, it makes sense that we would attempt to siege one of these castles, but look how many legionnaires are in this castle. 248 legionnaires. This is not possible. Not with a bunch of peasants. It's not practicable, but we might be able to starve this town out. It looks like they only have 3 days worth of food. We do have a little bit of food ourselves, although not an enormous amount, and time is of the essence. We must acquire a source of food. It'd be very important for us to establish a home base early on in this campaign, so I think it does make some sense here to try to starve these citizens out, try to effectively reduce the garrison size to a manageable number, and then we can actually attempt to siege here. This is what I'm worried about, though. This is a very large Khazate force. Just like in the French Revolution, the other kingdoms are all trying to put us down because they want law and order. Of course, the concern these kingdoms have is that any kind of revolt in our kingdom that was successful might spread to theirs. So just like them attacking Napoleon and the French Revolution, undoubtedly they're going to try to put down our little revolt. So we've got a force there, and Gauss Castle is already under siege. I think it doesn't make sense for us to siege Mysia right now, while our only castle is being attacked. Unfortunately, I have this Khazate force here of nearly twice our size. I'm hoping they don't turn south to attack us here. They are turning. Well, we're going to have to try to cruise through here. As you can see, of course, we still have plenty of injuries, but we should be able at least to make it back to Gauss Castle. With such a large defense force in Mysia, it just doesn't make any sense that we would invest ourselves on a several-day siege necessary to starve their garrison. The Xenon army here of it looks like the Northern Empire. Okay, and they have a very elite force with 61 cataphract, 125 sergeant crossbowmen. This is probably not a force that we should attack directly. We're going to try to get into the castle here and assist our small garrison with defense. We're going to build some counter siege here. Now we have almost 1,200 defenders. So at this stage, I would probably welcome an attack. Of course, the problem we have is time. Not only are we running out of food, but the longer that we go without acquiring more possessions, more cities, they've got a siege tower built now. That's longer time for other enemies, other kingdoms to attack us. And we are at war with everybody. When you are a rebel, you're at war with everybody. That is part of the game. That is part of the ground rules we're establishing here. So we're not going to have tier 5 and 6 troops whenever we can. I will simply be disbanding those. Oops, I accidentally let one of those nobles go. We're not going to be releasing nobles like I do normally in my campaign here. And we're also not going to use our entire clan. We've got about a dozen clan members of varying strengths, but both of them admittedly are varying strong. Obviously, just like the first episode though, most of them are wearing weak armor, with the idea being that our peasants weren't going to be comfortable being led by a bunch of guys that looked like the same noblemen that they hated. It actually makes sense for us to ambush the enemy here. I haven't done this very often, but it looks like they're intent on starving us here. Let's destroy some of our siege. Let's attack them here and see if we can't put a dent into their morale. Frankly, we're a little bit desperate here. We don't have a lot of food. We don't have a home base yet. We don't have much of a militia force, and the enemy's already trying to hem us in. We're going to position archers out here and attack with cav and try to destroy as much of their siege equipment as we can. Of course, it's all elite troops. All I see are elite cataphracts. And we have a short window here to destroy as much as we can. Reinforcements will be coming, but we're going to try to put a dent into this attack. To destroy their siege tower here. Of course, throughout history, one of the key strategies by the powers that be against revolts is to stall. Very frequently, they would engage in what I would consider bad faith negotiating. They would say, oh, sure, we'll consider these demands and we'll consider this. Meet us here at this castle. Holy shit, I almost got killed in one shot. Meet us here at this castle, and we'll discuss the terms of these improvements and your demands. And then the nobles would stall. Meanwhile, they were arming their retinues, right? Meanwhile, they were gathering their force, calling their local kingdoms to ruthlessly put down these revolts. Now, this happened over and over again, and in most cases, that's exactly what happened. They'd stalled the nobles out, and they either starved them, or they put them into a state where they were sort of waiting for the kings and whatnot, the powers that be, to negotiate in good faith, and they didn't, right? They ruthlessly attacked them. They pursued Realpolitik, this term sort of famously persuaded by Bismarck and the early people, the early German Federation. This idea was that politics, there are no morals. There is no ethic to politics. There is no ethic to geopolitics. Winning is the only thing that matters. Since we know that, and since Zuvan here is a student of history, we know our treacherous enemy is not going to negotiate in good faith. We know they're not going to keep their good word. We know they're going to stall with these fucking attacks. And we are going to counterattack, right? We are going to, if you know what your enemy's plan is, and we're just mowing down fucking insolent lords here, you can thereby attack your enemy's weaknesses, right? If you know what your enemy's going to do before they do it, you have an upper hand. In this case, I know that these fucks are bringing in more reinforcements, so we're going to kill as many of their troops as we can before beating feet back inside the castle. Still, we've destroyed their siege tower, we've destroyed their ram, and I dare say we've destroyed their morale. Just like the first force that attacked us, the Western Empire force that attacked us in the open field, whoops, friendly fire, they found out that they bit off a little more than they can chew. These forces here pretty soon will gain the same notion. Still not intent on running away. We're trying to put a licking on them and really damage their morale. Of course, Zuvan is fairly famous for his recklessness. Very frequently, he has to be dragged off a battlefield, just like the scene in Braveheart where William Wallace is dragged out of there. Zuvan frequently does not leave a battle until he's laying in the dirt. And case in point. So this gal here, I consider her our voice of moderation, our voice of prudence. She's going to rescue Zuvan, drag him off this battlefield, and get our forces back inside the castle for the rest of this defense. So indeed, the Northern Empire eventually left the scene. They decided that they either didn't have enough food or enough troops to continue the siege, so it left us free to consider our options at Mysia. Of course, our own forces are getting hungry now. Our food stocks are getting low. It is getting to the point where we're a little bit desperate, and we're surveying the landscape here for options. Right? It's conceivable that we could eventually attack Sinopa. We're going to be doing a lot of brutal mispronunciations here. Feel free to correct me if you know the correct pronunciation, and perhaps there is no correct pronunciation. Fortunately, we do have some villages we can collect food from. We're going to be able to get some resources, but we really need a city. So it's time for us to invest siege here in Mysia. We're losing daily gold, but I think that's going to change. If we take Mysia, a very large city like this will provide us a lot of income and start to get us on the positive side of gold. That'll be necessary, especially after we gave an endowment of 13 million to our little former guildmate friend. We are getting deserters, of course, because Zuvan is frequently overstuffed with units, but in this case, I don't mind that at all. Now, I see they're already down to 1 day of food here at this city. That's a very good sign. That means it's very probable by the time we're ready to siege here, assuming we're not attacked, that we're going to have their number reduced to a much more manageable number. Now, if you don't know, when you're sieging a city like this, of course, they start to get lower and lower in food. The idea being they're not bringing in food from the villages and whatnot. The siege, the city is surrounded. And in this case, of course, they're simply going to start to starve. The effect of that on the city, besides reduced prosperity, is that the units that are inside, the troops, now not the militia, but the garrison, right? The troops, the imperial troops, will begin to starve, and that starving effect makes them injured as if they were injured in battle. This is going to help us siege here. We'll use normal player damage here, and you know they still have 840 defenders here, so this is going to be extremely difficult. On top of that, I think a good deal of those legionnaires are probably still healthy. All right. So as you can see from the power bar, the computer AI does not expect us to have any chance to pull this siege off. Well, it doesn't understand the spirit and tenacity of these peasants. We are going to storm this castle with everything we have, as if our lives depend on it, because quite frankly, it does. Any revolt typically was put down with such ruthlessness that everybody was killed, and sometimes in brutal manners. They were drawn and they were drawn and quartered. They were beheaded. All sorts of ruthless manners. In fact, beheading was typically reserved for nobles who revolted. Anytime there was peasants that revolted, they would do things like burn them alive or draw and quarter them. What? We're experiencing some stuttering here. This is not my computer, I assure you. I have a beast of a computer. So we'll see if we have some issues with this siege. Unfortunately, the issues were on and off going in this episode, so I did my best to narrate afterward, but Zvan ultimately got himself a war tower on the left side of the keep, did a little javelin work, and ordered his archers to the left side of the keep. That way we could shoot at the guys at the main gate. Once we had control of that left side, Zvan found himself a nice pile of explosive rocks, to which he put promptly to work, including some allied casualties, as usual. Ultimately, the guy wearing the potato sack did massive damage to the enemy with heave after heave of explosive bombs. Eventually, Zvan also moved his infantry to press the enemy in, holding him in place while he rained down bombs on him. To the added misery of all the life forms within the city, Zvan found another pile of bombs directly over the men in the courtyard and rained down fireballs. Men, pets, rats in the gutter, allied forces and enemy foes alike were destroyed by a hail of continuous fireballs. Zvan even tried some no-look throws. The enemy melted away. Eventually, after immolating half the city, Zvan discovered the enemy archer force, and after calling in infantry and shield wall to confront the archers, Zvan negotiated a treaty with the archers. He offered a short period of unconsciousness if they agreed to join the rebellion after the battle. Those who didn't ratify the treaty were offered a hammer-time beatdown by angry rebels and a raging Zvan. The city's remaining elite defense forces, including legionnaires, imperial sergeant, crossbowmen, and cataphract, also got the beat down from the hammer. Kill them all! Second round of treaty negotiations with the Archers Guild revealed the 1154 Treaty of Mysia, in which Zvan and the rebels agreed to knock the archers unconscious as long as the archers agreed to run for the castle keep instead of fighting. Those that fought were later forced into servitude to feed the families of Creos. Ultimately, Zvan and the rebels were able to take Mysia with a relatively low amount of casualties despite the strength of the forces inside. Pursuing troops were knocked unconscious from the castle gates all the way to the Lord's Keep. Those inside the Lord's Keep also got a speedy beatdown by the companions of Zvan, although it was closer than expected. All right, so we have our first city here in Mysia, and there are 49 prisoners that we can add to our army, although we won't be taking these tier 5 units into our army. The ground rules we set for this challenge basically dictate that we're not going to have any tier 5 or 6 units in our army. Our peasants are not comfortable fighting with these noble units. They don't trust them, but we will happily take these low-level units into our army. Mysia will also give us a place where we can sell our loot, all these loot from the various different battles, and at some point we are going to upgrade some of the equipment for our characters. My companions and all these rebels clearly want this though too. We are going to devastate the city of Mysia, right? They get to loot, they get to have a good time, definitely good for morale. All right, so now what in this challenge, right? Now we have a city, now we have a castle. Of course, we're going to have to fend off attacks. Again, we are at war with everybody. Attacks are basically inevitable, but we are going to start to look to consolidate our power here. We're going to look to start recruiting more troops. Almost all these villages have a half dozen troops that we can add to our army. In fact, I have a little bit over capacity here, and we're virtually going to buy all the goods at every single one of these towns. I might skip some of the most expensive goods, but we have a good amount of gold to operate despite giving away a lottery ticket to one of our companions from our previous campaign. So just kind of exploring the land here, although it does look like there's some troops gathering here to the south, so let's take a look at this. I apologize for the narration for that battle. That almost never happens. Whoa, okay, so we have a very large force of Northern Empire here, and unfortunately they are heading to Mysia to besiege. Okay, well, we're not going to be able to beat them there and get into the castle, so I think... Yeah, and it's a very powerful force. 169 Imperial Sergeant Crossbowmen, almost 100 Elite Cataphract. Gauss may be attacked as well, but a good defense sometimes is a good offense. We're going to attack. We are going to continue to rampage at a minimum. We're going to take loot and troops from their towns out here and look for another target of opportunity. As rebels, we're not likely to be able to stay in one spot for a very long time, right? We will be pinned down. The enemy will pour in on us. Whoa, okay, so we can't attack Argeron. There's a massive defense force there. But Atrion Castle, this is definitely an option. Okay, so he's sieging Mysia. Well, let's return the favor. In fact, we should be able to siege Atrion Castle before he can siege Mysia. Right, we don't need to build a bunch of trebuchets and catapults. We're just going to do a turbo siege here and then see if we can't get back and defend Mysia. I mean, there's a fairly large defense force here, 666 troops, but the majority of them are militia, and we do have a pretty healthy sized army right now. It is possible at some point that we have a lot less troops than this. I may allow my companions to branch off a little bit, do some raiding. It looks like the Northern Empire is forming another big army here. They already have an army of 2,000, and it looks like they're forming a defense force for this castle. So we're obviously going to be outnumbered amazingly in this challenge. We're fighting everybody, and we literally have brigands and militia and peasants. This is hell mode. This is Bannerlord hell mode. I'm still wearing my potato sack with Zuvan, although we'll be upgrading armor. One of the things I'm going to do with armor, though, here is I recruit all these prisoners. That's another way we're going to definitely restock our troops. One of the things I'm going to do with our equipment is I'm not going to allow our units to wear tier 4 and above armor. So we'll have, some decent leather armor and stuff like that, but it's the kind of armor that rebels would approve their leaders of having. They don't want, they hate the aristocracy. They don't want our guys wearing plated armor and whatnot. And so we're going to be wearing armor. It'll just be a lot weaker than any of our potential foes. It'll give us a little baseline of protection, though, instead of running around a potato sack like I am in this episode. In fact, all of these episodes, Zuvan has been running around in this same potato sack. And, of course, he's been laying down face dirt in a lot as well. All right, so we've got skirmishers and archers set up here while we try to bum rush this right side of the keep. Left side, our left side, their right side. Sending the infantry up quickly. When you do a bum rush like this in a castle, the main idea is to get troops up there as quick as you can so that the defense force doesn't have time. Holy shit, fucking projectiles. So that the defense force, they're getting obliterated in that corner. They're like either falling or getting killed and falling off. But the main idea with this is that we're trying to basically prevent the defense force from setting up too well. Now, obviously, they have some troops set up here, but a lot of them are militia, and they are getting absolutely obliterated by our troops. Now, we do have an archer heavy army, and that's helping right here, and we have plenty of skirmishers, right? Even though they're tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, those skirmishers are still going to help us in situations like this. Bodies are just raining down, allied and enemy. It's chaos. Look at all these fucking guys. Hammers and shields and shit is falling down. I see my own troops either jumping or falling as well. Let's get up here. They help these guys out. Now, of course, one of the difficult things that I'm imagining is it's going to be very hard to leave a large garrison anywhere because we don't have that many troops, right? We can't afford to leave 400 troops in a castle because that would be half of our defense force. And given that we're already going to be outnumbered in a lot of battles, that's just not practicable. Ooh, we got more exploding bombs here. Zuvan loves his exploding bombs. My forces have forced a breach on this left side, and this is exactly what I was hoping for. Even though the enemy's sort of resolutely fighting here, we have pushed our way through, and critically, that's giving our troops access to these ladders. Now we're going to try to clean up the rest of the troops here, mow down some of these archers that are shooting at us at a distance. Fucking assholes. But the vital thing here is our guys are pouring up the ladder, right? So mission accomplished as far as getting troops into the keep. Now, if you're wondering why Zuvan's hammer is doing so low damage, if you somehow missed the first episode, he has a level 1 custom hammer. It's very low damage, but it's extremely fast. He has 2 different hammers, actually. One is a faster, a faster, shorter hammer, and the other one is a longer, more damage, but slower hammer. Both, though, are going to be very effective at knocking the enemy around, right? We're going to have a good time clobbering guys to the ground, at which point our militia can pound these guys. Alright, I've got these bombs here. I'm trying to figure out how I can make use of these. If the enemy sets up any defense forces, we're going to be using these hammers. Or using these bombs, rather. Okay, I see a large defense force coming our way. And our troops are jammed up here in the ladderway. That means there's troops at the top stopping our guys from pushing in there. I've got several of these bombs here too. I'm itching to use these. Push a hole, boys. Or at least give me a shot to fucking throw my grenade. Okay, the enemy force is just totally jammed in here above us, preventing us from pushing in. This is a highly defensible castle. The advantage of that, of course, is when we take this castle, we'll be able to use these various different choke points to help us defend. Yeah, here, let's clear the break up there. We might hit a few of our own troops. This is life. Can't tell, Zuvan's got a fetish for throwing bombs. He's not averse to killing some of his own guys. We'll just call it collateral damage. I'm hitting my own troops. But we're trying to breach the hole here. We're trying to blow a hole. Just like Edward Longshanks and Braveheart, right? When he calls for archers and the guy's like, Lord, won't we hit our own troops? And he's like, yes, but we'll hit theirs as well. Attack! All right, so we've pushed a breach. The exploding bombs did their trick. I can't fight because I'm holding this grenade, but I've got enough guys here that look like they can push away. And I think we'll take a look up here to see if we have any opportunity to throw these grenades. Oh, we got guys right here, and there's guys on the other side here. They don't even pay me any attention. Let's rain down some... That's what I'm talking about. Let's blow some fucking holes in the defense. I got some stubborn troops up here. Motherfucker. Damn, this guy is fucking tough. Fucking asshole. This guy's literally kicking my ass. Alright, so we've got a little breach. Now we've got access to this tower. I can rain javelins, but you know what? One at a time, when I've got those bombs down there, is just not effective. My guys are jammed up down there. Let's blow a hole for our guys, right? I'm sure guys watching this are probably doing the same thing or using these bombs creatively, but of course these are actually there for the enemy, but they're perfectly useful if you're attacking inside of a keep to use against the enemy, right? Fire away. Now, it is true that the enemy doesn't use these, the AI doesn't use these near as well as we can, and that's too bad. It would be hilarious to see troops running around with these bombs and blowing up their own guys occasionally. It would certainly add an element of danger to the game. Yeah, look, these guys are all bottled up there at the top of that tower. Let's blow a fucking hole in that tower. The wall just broke. We killed like 100 guys. Let's speed this up a little bit. Zuvan's got a full health bar. We can afford to move quickly here. The sooner we can blow a hole in the defenses on that side, the sooner we can storm the front gate. And it's clear these guys are trapped. None of my guys can move forward. That'll start to blow a hole. Alright, so as I run back and forth here to get bombs, let me talk about a few more parts of this challenge. For those who are curious what kind of campaign this is going to be, this might be a short campaign. As I've already said, the ground rules, I'm going to try to obey them. Some basic ground rules is I'm not going to be inviting or paying for any of the minor clans, right? So we won't have the Lake Rats fighting for us. In fact, that's not really going to be a possibility anyways, because the Lake Rats, all of the clans in my campaign are pretty much taken up by the enemy forces, right? And if you don't know, obviously you can't talk to enemy minor clans and try to recruit them. The second thing is we're not going to recruit any of the other clans from the other forces, but that should also be a given too, since I don't plan on giving peace to any of the different nations within my game. I could negotiate peace, and maybe if they offer a generous amount of cash, we might be willing to have peace. But my plan is right now is to fight everybody the whole time, just like my campaign. Of course, it's going to be extremely difficult. The good thing is our kingdom is so small, I've already seen enemy forces declaring war on each other. Almost like we're so small of a threat that they're willing to sort of multitask and start eating each other. That will play into our advantage, right? The other thing we are going to try to do is whenever we can, in other words, whenever we can and the troops don't fight back, we're going to raid villages. Now, if we have to kill the militia inside villages, we're not going to do that, right? I'm thinking about it this way. These are basically peasants in our army, right? These are militia and whatnot. They would not approve of us mauling militia for gold and resources and stuff like that. So if we go try and raid a village and they resist, we're not going to be, we'll just leave, right? We'll buy their goods and maybe recruit some troops, but we're not going to be ripping apart villages and whatnot. Now, we are going to encourage rebellion any possible way we can, which includes raiding, right? We will raid a town area if the villagers don't attack to the point where those places start to run out of food, right? We're wrapping up this siege here. We've now taken our second castle, and frankly, this was an easy one. We just blew right through here. Somehow I picked up a little tiny short axe here. A sickle, actually, he had. Other ground rules, again, we're not going to be using tier 5 and tier 6. Now, this is exceptionally difficult for one main reason. My companions have no qualms at all about upgrading troops. That means that we're going to routinely have to... Where's the enemy out here? I can't quite tell where the enemy is. Nobody's attacking. They're just kind of standing there. So my allies are unfortunately going to upgrade troops. When that happens, what I'm going to do is whenever I see them in their armies, I'll simply pull those troops out of their army and then disband those troops, right? We will get rid of them. It is going to happen sometimes that we have tier 5 troops and it's unavoidable, but whenever I can, we're going to dump tier 5 troops. Tier 6 as well, too, I should say. Tier 5 and 6. Now, what kind of troop does that mean I'm targeting then? For sure, I'll be targeting militia. Anytime we can get militia that we're taking prisoner, we'll be picking them up. And definitely the minor clan units. When I said we're not going to recruit any minor clan, we won't be recruiting, their whole army, so to speak, right? Where you can actually have the Lake Rats join your army. What we will do is we will pick up individual Lake Rats, and the nice thing is they're stuck at tier 4. So that will fit our challenge perfectly, right? Sort of fighting with these lower level troops, fighting with this militia, and taking on all of Calradia here as we support this peasant revolt. Okay, so they retreated to the keep here again. This time we'll participate. Most of these are just, they're basically automatic. You get to go through here and just truck all these guys. It's virtually a guaranteed success, even though I can't throw javelins at a guy 5 feet from me. So we're going to roll through here, and the rebellion continues, right? We've now taken our second castle. We have the city of Mysia within our possession, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get to Mysia before it's sieged down by the Northern Empire. The Northern Empire and the Western Army, Western Empire in particular, are the two kingdoms in this challenge that we're going to be attacking. In fact, Osorios is the Archduke who has been collecting taxes from Creos. Look at the hammer just knocking guys around. He's been the Archduke collecting these rapacious taxes, and so we're going to seek out Osorios and try to execute him if we can. If we're able to capture his army, it would only make sense that these repressed villagers of Creos would want some blood vengeance on this rapacious lord. So we're successful here in taking this castle. This is going to give us just another bastion of defense, right? We're going to be doing a lot of defending within this challenge. Let me know what you guys think of this challenge. If you're curious, or you want to see something specific in the challenge, if you have questions about some of the ground rules or whatever it is, I don't know if I'm going to do 2 episodes or 12. I guess it kind of depends on how things go. A lot of people have asked for a campaign, and this is probably going to be the closest thing I do to a new campaign, at least for a little while. We still have the main campaign going on. We have these side branches of those campaigns, like the 300 series, the Companions in Blood, the Weak Army series, etc. But hopefully you're going to enjoy these episodes. Hopefully you enjoy the saga of our little rebel army here, right? Now we've got Mysia and 2 castles, right? We've got a little head of steam going as we help these rebels here try to take back their lands and stop paying fucking horrendous taxes to awful lords. Yeah, so Gauss Castle's already under siege. This is probably going to be a non-stop assault, and to deal with that assault, we're going to have to be nimble, we're going to have to use tactics, we're going to have to use our brain, and we're going to have to pull all our resources together to win these difficult battles one after another. Yeah, so again, I'm going to be looking for tier 5 units from these fellow armies of mine, and anytime I see them, we'll yank them out. We'll try to give them militia and whatnot. As you can see, we're starting to develop a pretty long list of militia. We shall see how it goes. I appreciate you for watching, friends. This has been kind of fun to try a new storyline here. I'll continue to try to roleplay kind of on and off. We'll do some tactics as well. We'll try to add in various different elements into these series here, this peasant revolt. So thanks again for watching, friends. Please subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Leave comments if you're curious about certain things, or you have suggestions, or even criticisms. If you want me to speed something up, let me know, and I will talk to you, friends, next time.